We've touched on spirits and their representations in artwork, but this week I would like to focus on a period of art that brought in some realism to the anthropomorphic animals that get us so riled up. Anthro-animals tempting saints is culturally effed. In these paintings made between the 15th and the 16th century, we see a variety of animal people posing as menacing demons. Painted to inspire fear and anxiety, some of these were designed to make the pagan religions of the time with animal imagery seem barbaric. The twisted faces of the devils look more goofy today, but at the time they were meant to represent your sins coming back to haunt you, or future temptations trying to steer you from the path of righteousness. Saint Anthony the Great, or Saint Anthony of Egypt, was one of the first significant Christian monks who spread the use of Latin and the concept of monasticism. He was a hermit who lived sometime between 251 and 356 CE. He is the patron saint of skin diseases, basket weavers, and grave diggers. What makes his story so popular is that on one occasion, when he was traveling into the desert, he was approached with supernatural temptations. There are several stories of temptations that include centaurs and satyrs, and temptations both physical and mental, which Anthony overcomes with his faith and with the help of God. He drives the demons away or shows them the errors of their ways. The temptation of St. Anthony is often a subject in fine art, and you can find almost 20 different pieces throughout history dedicated to this journey. The overlying themes of the story are of faith and moving beyond sins, but it always depends on who is telling the story. Michelangelo is considered one of the greatest artists of all time. Most memorable works include the Sistine Chapel and the statue of David, and was probably likely a party dude. Michelangelo's first known surviving painting is The Temptation of St. Anthony. He painted this when he was maybe only 12 or 13 years old in 1487. It was actually copied from an etching his master created. Scholars can't agree on the source of inspiration, but the story that's being depicted is St. Anthony, who was flown across the desert by angels. How else are we going to get across the desert? Then ambushed by devils, shown as twisted anthro and zoomorphic creatures. Anthony resists their bouts of temptation. The image shows his serene and calm face, reflective of keeping peaceful and faithful in the wake of anxieties that plague us all, in a cruel and hedonistic world that tempts us to stray from a more civilized path. If you are plagued with anxieties and temptations of things you shouldn't be doing, just take a breath and enjoy some calming scenery. We now know that Michelangelo was historically queer, so perhaps in the throes of puberty, by interpreting his master's work on the temptation, maybe he was using this as a meditative outlet to explore his own demons. Another painter from the same time period painted long, dreamy landscapes full of twisted imagery that today brings on similar feelings to works done by Salvador Dali or Monty Python. Hieronymus Bosch also painted his fair share of religious iconography, including anthro characters and demons. He's known for his painting The Last Judgment, but you may just as likely find one of his works in a headshot poster rack or filtered through Google's AI Daydreamer. He has created 2 distinct works on the temptation. His creations have much more character than Michelangelo's demons. You can see different breeds of birds and fish. It seems to have been his secret passion to include animal people into his many works. He probably loved painting nature. While many are demonic and are depicted torturing humans, others seem to be more passive observers. If he were alive today, he would likely be a very successful artist and probably involved in the furry community. Bosch wanted to show the chaos of life, even in his depictions of heaven. Life is a busy place, and in the darkest places there can still be joy and irony found in the nonsense and the chaos. His works are meant to be dwelt on, to take your time, letting your eye wander and find the work's hidden details. By balancing the ridiculous and the virtuous, he was able to gain the support of progressives and conservatives of his time alike. Matthias Grunwald also painted St. Anthony and his demons to rival that of Bosch, but are perhaps more relatable to Jim Henson's studio puppets of today, like that in the film The Dark Crystal. Most of his works were destroyed or lost in the 30 Years' War, and what survives today are religious commissions he made for altars, cathedrals, and the private collections of church officials. The largest surviving painting of his depicts St. Anthony cornered and on the floor being tormented by demons, yet his face doesn't show fear or pain or even the seriousness depicted in the opposing side of the work where he's talking with St. Paul. Instead, his eyes are glancing toward the oncoming temptations, and his mouth is askew in what looks like a child's grin, perhaps taunting the demons who hold no power over him with their tortures and temptations. I feel like Matthias Grunwald and Hieronymus Bosch would both be professors at Hogwarts. The temptation is often celebrated as being a supernatural miracle, granting Anthony his saintly status. Many believe that the temptations are simply metaphorical, meant to teach us a lesson to shy away from easy sins, or that the demons were a vision, dream, or hallucination that he took as a sign from God. Some believe that these were originally just the regular, boring desert wildlife that he encountered and survived. Regardless, the story didn't gain much attention until the Middle Ages, some centuries long after Anthony's death. Of course, these demons that we are talking about are in our minds, caused by externalities beyond our control. A similar subject is the Greek myth from the Iliad. Agamemnon's son Orestes is haunted by angry spirits after avenging his murdered father in a piece entitled Orestes Pursued by the Furies. Orestes' reaction is very unlike St. Anthony. He's overwhelmed, trying to run away and shutting out their voices. The opposite is true at a furry convention, where it's better to embrace these fluffy demons and enjoy the good humor together, unless you're a hater in the wrong hotel, which today would be more accurately Orestes Pursued by the Furries. The takeaway for us in today's world is to copy Anthony's cool head in the face of stress and anxiety. Anthony invites us to use humor and wit to overcome these. We can't all be perfect, but when we're faced with distractions or stress, that we must remain calm, serene, and to use the peace within ourselves and to find peace around us to conquer these obstacles. I need your help now. Do you know any furry artists or just artists who paint anthropomorphic animals who embody classical methods or traditional art styles? I really wanted to close this episode by talking about furry artists, but I want to throw that task to you guys. Please post in the comments links to artists you think take these philosophies to heart and try to portray more meaning from their artwork. One artist that I can think of is Kamui, whose digital paintings imbue similar lackadaisy and serene quiet moments that Renaissance painters favored, and whose works have appeared on many covers on the books on my bookshelf. I have been your host, RK, and thanks for watching. Culturally Effed this week was brought to you by these fluffy people and by our sponsors on Patreon. If you like what we do here, the best thing you can do for us is subscribe and share with your friends. If you want to support us in a more tangible way, we have a donate button at the top of our YouTube page and also a Patreon, where patrons get cool perks like priority episode suggestion and early access to our side series all about furries and sex, called Culturally Effed After Dark. If you have an idea for a future episode topic, you can find us online at Culturally Effed on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Fur Affinity, and Weasel. I have been your host, RK, and thanks for watching.